Matthew 15. Jesus tells the Pharisees and teachers of God's law to obey God. One after that, a group of Pharisees and teachers of God's law came from Jerusalem to talk to Jesus. 2. They said, "Our leaders in past times taught us the right way to do everything. But your disciples do not obey the things that our leaders taught us. They do not wash their hands in the right way before they eat a meal. Why is that?" 3. Jesus replied, "God tells us the right way to obey him. But you refuse. Instead, you like to keep your own ideas. For God's law says, you must love your father and mother and obey them. God also says, person should die if he says bad things against his father or against his mother. 5. But you teach that a person may say to his father or to his mother, would have given these gifts to you, but I cannot. Instead, I have given them to God. 6. Then, you let that person give nothing to his parents. He does not have to help them. This shows that you have not obeyed what God says is right. Instead, you have obeyed your own ideas. 7. You are hypocrites. What God's prophet Isaiah wrote about you long ago is true. 8. God says, these people say good things about me, but they do not really want to obey me. 9. They say that I am great. But what they say has no purpose. They teach their own rules, which I did not give to them. Jesus talks about the wrong things that people do. 10. Jesus asked the crowd of people to come to him. He said to them, listen to me, so that you can understand my message. 11. It is not food that goes into a person's mouth that makes them dirty. Instead, what comes out of a person's mouth is important. This may show that what is inside them is dirty. 12. Then Jesus' disciples went to him, and they said, "We Pharisees heard what you said. They did not agree with what you said. Do you know that?" 13. Jesus replied, "Those Pharisees are like plants that my Father God did not put in the ground. Like a farmer, he will completely pull all those plants out of the ground." 14. Do not listen to what the Pharisees say. They are blind, but they try to show people which way to go. A blind person cannot lead another blind person. If he does, then both of them will fall into a deep hole. 15. Peter said to Jesus, "Explain to us what you mean." 16. Jesus replied, "I'm surprised that you still do not understand what I am saying." 17. You should understand that food first goes into a person's mouth. Then it goes into their stomach, and then it passes out of their body. 18. The words that a person speaks come from their thoughts. It is what comes out of a person's mouth that makes them dirty. 19. Bad thoughts come from a person's mind. As a result, they do wrong things. They might decide to kill somebody. They might have sex with another man's wife or in other wrong ways. They might rob somebody. They might tell lies about other people. Or they might say bad things against them. 20. It is these bad things that make people dirty in front of God. But if people eat food when they have not washed their hands in the right way, that will not make them dirty. Jesus makes a girl well again. 21. Then, Jesus left that place. He went away to some places near to the cities called Tyre and Sidon. 22. A woman was living in this part of the country. She was one of the Canaanite people. She came to see Jesus. She was shouting with a loud voice, "Son of David, help me, sir. A bad spirit is living inside my daughter. It is giving her much pain." 23. Jesus did not say anything to the woman. So his disciples came to him. They said, "Please, send this woman away. She is following us and she is making a lot of noise." 24 Jesus replied to his disciples, God has sent me to help only the people of Israel. They are like sheep that have lost their way. 25 Then the woman came to Jesus and she went down on her knees in front of him. Please help me, she said. 26 Jesus did answer the woman this time. He said, "'Tis not right to take food from the children and then throw it to the dogs." 27 The woman replied to Jesus, "Sir, that is true. But even the dogs eat the small pieces of food that fall from their master's table." 28 Jesus answered her, "Woman, you show clearly that you believe in God. God will do what you have asked." At that moment the woman's daughter became well again. 29 Jesus traveled on from that place and he walked along the shore of Lake Galilee. He climbed up a hill and he sat down there. 30 Large crowds of people came to him and they brought sick people with them. Some of these sick people could not walk very well, and some of them were blind. Some of them could not use their arms or their legs. Some of them could not speak. There were many other sick people who had different illnesses. Their friends put the sick people in front of Jesus, and Jesus caused them all to become well again. 31 When the large crowd saw all this, they were very surprised. People who could not speak could now speak again. People who could not use their arms or their legs were now well again. Those people who could not walk very well could now walk again. Blind people could now see again. All the people praised God, and they said, "God of Israel, you are great." Jesus feeds 4,000 men and their families. 32 Then Jesus told his disciples to come to him. Feel sorry for this crowd, he said to them. They have been here with me now for 3 days and they do not have any food. I do not want to send them away while they are hungry. They might fall down during their journey because they are weak. 33 The disciples said to Jesus, "His place is a long way from any houses. We cannot get enough bread here to feed so many people." 34 Jesus asked them, "How many loaves of bread do you have?" "We have 7 loaves and a few small fish," they replied. 35 Jesus told the crowd that they should sit down on the ground. 36 Then he took the 7 loaves and the fish in his hands and he thanked God for them. Then he broke the bread and the fish into pieces and he gave the food to his disciples. The disciples gave the food to the people. 37 All the people ate and they all had enough food. After the people had eaten, there were still lots of small pieces of food. Jesus' disciples filled 7 baskets with these pieces. 38 There were 4,000 men who ate the bread and fish. There were also women and children who ate. 39 Then Jesus sent the crowd of people away. After that, he got into the boat and sailed to the part of the country near Magadan. Matthew 16 The Pharisees ask again to see a miracle. When some Pharisees and Sadducees went to see Jesus, they wanted to make Jesus do something wrong. They asked him, "Oh, something powerful for us to see. Then we will believe that God has sent you." 2 Jesus answered them, "Sometimes the sky is red in the evening. Then you say, 'Tomorrow the weather will be good.' 3 Sometimes in the morning the sky is red and there are dark clouds. Then you say, 'Today there will be a storm.' So, you look at the sky and you know what the weather will be. But special things are happening now. and you do not understand what they mean. For the people who are alive today are very bad. They do not obey God. They want God to show them something powerful. But God will not do this for them. They will only see the same powerful thing that God did for Jonah. Then Jesus went away and left them. Jesus talks about the Pharisees and the Sadducees. 5 Jesus and his disciples sailed over to the other side of the lake. His disciples forgot to take any bread with them. 6 Jesus said to them, "Be careful. Do not let the yeast of the Pharisees and Sadducees spoil you." 7 The disciples began to talk to each other about this. Jesus is saying this because we did not bring any bread with us, they said. 8 Jesus knew what they were talking about. So he said to them, "You should not be arguing with each other about the bread. You should trust me more than you do." 9 You still do not understand. You should remember that I used 5 loaves of bread to feed 5,000 men. Think about how many baskets you filled with pieces of food after the meal. 10 Also remember that I used 7 loaves of bread to give food to 4,000 men. And think about how many baskets you filled with pieces of food that time. 11 I spoke to you about the yeast of the Pharisees and the Sadducees. I said that you must not let it spoil you. You should understand now that I was not really speaking about bread. 12 Then the disciples understood what Jesus was talking about. They did not need to be careful about the yeast that they used in their bread. Instead, they must be careful about what the Pharisees and Sadducees were teaching. They must not let it spoil them. Peter says who Jesus is. 13 Jesus went into the part of the country near Caesarea Philippi. While he was there, he asked his disciples, "When people talk about the Son of Man, who do they say that he is?" 14 They replied, "Some people say that you are John the Baptist. Other people say that you are Elijah. And some other people say that you are Jeremiah, or another prophet of God." 15 Now what do you think? Jesus asked them, "Who do you say that I am?" 16 Simon Peter answered him, "You are the Messiah. You are the Son of God, the God who lives forever." 17 Jesus said to Simon Peter, "Simon, son of Jonah, God has really helped you. No person on earth taught you that. God, my Father in heaven, has shown you this." 18 I tell you this. You are called Peter, which means a rock. And I will build my church on this rock. Not even the power of death will destroy my church. 19 I will give you the keys to the kingdom of heaven. You will tell people here on earth what is right for them to do. And you will tell them what is not right for them to do. God in heaven will give you this authority. He will agree with what you say. 20 Then Jesus said strongly to his disciples, "Do not tell anyone that I am the Messiah." Jesus tells his disciples how he would die. 21 After this, Jesus began to explain everything to his disciples. He told them, "Must go to Jerusalem. There, people will cause me to have great pain. The important Jews, the leaders of the priests, and the teachers of God's law will hurt me. Then people will kill me. But 3 days later, God will cause me to become alive again." 22 Then Peter took Jesus away from the other disciples. He began to tell Jesus that he must not say things like that. "Oh, Lord! God will never let this happen to you," he said to Jesus. 23 Jesus turned round and said to Peter, "Satan, go away from me. I must obey God. But you are trying to stop me. Your thoughts do not come from God. Instead, you are thinking like men think. 24 Then Jesus said to his disciples, "Person who wants to come along with me must not think about himself. He must decide that his own life is not important. He must be like someone who carries his own cross to go and die. Then he may come along with me." 25 Whoever wants to keep his life safe will lose it. But whoever gives his life to serve me will have true life. 26 A person could get everything in the whole world for himself. But if he loses his life, this will not be any good for him. There is nothing that a person can give to get back his life. 27 I tell you all this because I, the Son of Man, will come back to this earth with God's angels. When I come, I will have the powerful beauty of my Father. I will see what each person has done on earth. Then I will pay them what is right. 28 I tell you this. When I, the Son of Man, come with power, some people who are standing here will see me. Before they die, they will see me begin to rule. Matthew 17 God causes Jesus to change 6 days after that, Jesus asked Peter and the two brothers, James and John, to go with him. Jesus led them up a high mountain by themselves. 2 Peter, James and John saw Jesus change in front of them. He became different to look at. His face was bright like the sun. His clothes became very white and they shone. 3 Then Moses and Elijah appeared in front of the 3 disciples. They were talking with Jesus. 4 Peter said to Jesus, "Lord, it is good that we are here. If you want, let me build 3 huts. 1 hut will be for you. 1 hut will be for Moses and 1 hut will be for Elijah." 5 While Peter was still speaking, a bright cloud appeared. It covered them all. A voice spoke from the cloud and it said, "His is my son and I love him. He makes me very happy. Listen to him." 6 The disciples heard the voice. They threw themselves down to the ground. They were very frightened. 7 But Jesus came to them and he touched them. "Stand up," he said. "Oh, not be afraid." 8 When they looked up, they could not see anyone else. Only Jesus was there with them. 9 While they were walking down the mountain again, Jesus said to the 3 disciples, "You must not tell anyone now about the things that you have just seen. One day, the Son of Man will die and then he will become alive again. Then you can tell people about these things." 10 Then the 3 disciples said to Jesus, "He teachers of God's law say that God's prophet Elijah must return first, before the Messiah comes. Why do they say this?" 11 Jesus replied, Elijah does come first. He gets everything ready. 12 But I tell you that Elijah has already come. People did not recognize him. They did to him all the things that they wanted to do. In the same way, they will also give me, the Son of Man, great pain. 13 Then the disciples understood that he was really talking about John the Baptist. Jesus makes a boy well. 14 Then Jesus and the 3 disciples reached the place where the crowd was. A man came to Jesus. He went down on his knees in front of him. 15 He said to Jesus, "Please, sir, be kind to my son. His mind is sick. Sometimes he does not know what he is doing. Often he falls into the fire, or he falls into water." 16 I brought the boy to your disciples, but they could not make him well. 17 Jesus replied, "You people today still do not believe in God. You have turned away from him. It is very difficult to be with you all this time. It is difficult for me to be patient with you." Then Jesus said to the man, "Bring the boy here to me." 18 Jesus said to the bad spirit, "Stop." Then the bad spirit left the boy and immediately he became well again. 19 When the disciples were alone with Jesus, they asked him, "How could we not make the bad spirit leave the boy?" 20 Jesus replied, "You could not do it because you do not trust God very much. I tell you this. You may believe in God only a little bit, like a very small seed. Even then, you could say to this mountain, 'Go away from this place and move to that other place.' Then it will move. Nothing will be impossible for you to do." 21 Jesus went on to say, His kind of spirit will not leave a person unless you pray. Also you should not eat for a time. 22 When Jesus and his disciples all met together in Galilee, he said, "Soon they will deliver the Son of Man to powerful people." 23 They will kill him. But 3 days after that, he will become alive again. When the disciples heard that, they were very sad. 24 After that, Jesus and his disciples arrived at Capernaum. Some men who received taxes for God's great house went to talk to Peter. They asked him, "Does your teacher pay the tax for God's great house?" 25 Peter answered them, "Yes, my teacher does pay the tax." Then Peter returned to the house where Jesus was staying. Before Peter could say anything, Jesus spoke to him first. He said, "There is a question for you to answer, Simon. Who are the people who must pay taxes and money to the rulers in this world? Do the rulers take tax from their own people? Or do they take taxes from other people?" 26 They take the taxes from other people, Peter replied. Jesus said to him, "His means that people from the ruler's own country do not need to pay anything." 27 But we do not want to make these men who take the tax angry. So go to the lake and throw out a line to catch fish. Pull up the first fish that you catch on your line. Open the mouth of the fish and you will find a coin inside it. Take the coin and give it to those who receive taxes for God's great house. This will be enough money for both my tax and yours.